So Crimson Desert finally released after what feels like a year or more of previews and articles, videos promoting this game. We finally have it. And the first big piece of, I don't know, controversy is the right word, but the first big news story around it was, of course, the reviews. So Crimson Desert on Metacritic currently has a 78% out of 100 from critics based on 93 reviews and a generally favorable rating for the user scores at 7.7. So actually, the critics like it more than the masses seem to, but it kind of became a little bit of a flashpoint for the culture war, as so many things tend to be when these initially released before the game was available to the public at large. A lot of people were doing that classic thing where they make fun of games journalists for not being good at a game, and that's why they gave it this rating. But then, it's come out that, that's kind of seems to be an accurate rating, at least based on the critic or the user score. So we'll just look at a couple of quick ones. So Consoli Finn says an open world game, Crimson Desert feels like next gen, but lame storytelling makes it feel quite hollow. Hard Zone, who gave it a 93, said Crimson Desert is an ambitious open world RPG that successfully blends fast paced action, combat, deep gameplay systems, and a vast living world into one cohesive experience. Despite a sometimes confusing narrative and a few frustrating encounters, its depth, technical performance, and sheer amount of content make it one of the most impressive releases of the year and a strong contender for Game of the Year. So, kind of see like the two wildly different ratings there. Game Informer gave it a 70. Crimson Desert is a beautiful, exploration rich, open world game that is a clear technological advancement, hampered by a cornucopia of little frustrations and a stark lack of narrative depth. Jesus. Kiko Mankiw. I'm not familiar with this publication, but they give it a 4. They said, Control, fuck this game, is a scam, is like a mobile game fake advertising trailer. That must be one of the users' reviews. Hilarious. Critical Hits gave it a 45, saying Crimson Desert draws attention for its ambitious open world adventure proposal, but the experience ultimately falls short of expectation. The game feels like a confusing narrative with uninteresting characters and missions that feel like generic MMO tasks. The combat has many mechanics but little depth, with artificial difficulty spikes and unresponsive controls. Even the impressive graphics and a high degree of exploration freedom, issues with art direction, bugs, and design decisions make the game feel vast in content but shallow in quality. So those are just some of the reviews. Obviously, not all of them, but one of the things that has come up time and time again is the fact that critic reviews don't necessarily equate to how well something is going to sell. And that certainly seems to be the case here, as we get over to PC Gamer and Lincoln Carpenter, who writes, Pearl Abyss announced Crimson Desert has sold more than 2 million copies in less than 24 hours, promises to work to make improvements quickly. Crimson Desert launch hasn't been met with universal acclaim, as frustrations with the hypermechanic open worlds, bizarre control scheme, and design oversights like its bafflingly restrictive inventory system have earned an early mixed rating on Steam. Those complaints, however, don't seem to have slowed its launch day sales. Just over 16 hours after its Steam unlock time, Pearl Abyss has announced that Crimson Desert has already sold more than 2 million copies. They said, quote, We are incredibly humbled to share that Crimson Desert has sold through 2 million copies worldwide, Pearl Abyss announced on its official X account. Thank you so much to our fans, community, and everyone who has joined us in Pywell. So obviously, middling reviews didn't seem to scare too many people off. I think the promise of a huge open world sandbox kind of goes over the potential faults it has as a narrative. But One of the things that a lot of people have complained about, even people who seemingly like the game, is its weird controls. So let's head over to Games Radar and Dustin Bailey, who writes Crimson Desert PR head insists that weird controls are like riding a bike, as veteran Dishonored lead suggests it's a rewarding mental gymnastic. If there's one nigh universal point of criticism early in Crimson Desert players have with the open world game, it's the controls. They're weird, they're awkward, and they're liable to give you fits, at least at first. Pearl Abyss's marketing head asserts that it's like riding a bike, and according to the veteran dev that led Dishonored, there are some advantages to an oddball control scheme. Responding on Twitter to a player who suggests that Crimson Desert just needs simplified controls, working director Will Powers suggests that you think of it like riding a bike and it comes naturally after you learn it. Just takes a minute. In a follow-up post, Powers also acknowledges that it takes time to learn. It definitely does take time. I spent about 3 hours with Crimson Desert last night, and even by the end of that time, I was still living in constant fear that I'd pushed the wrong combination of buttons, and just annihilate some poor townspeople. I definitely sent some poor beggars flying when I first picked up the Force Palm ability. In an unrelated tweet, Dishonored, Deathloop, and Blade lead Digna Bakaba has also weighed in on the notion of oddball control layouts. Quote, I like learning a control scheme to play. It's rewarding mental gymnastics. He says, makes you pay attention to the game differently too. I remember discovering Demon's Souls and having to develop new coordination for it. I hope this doesn't disappear in the profit of standardization. It might seem natural, given that all the influence over other devs have taken from FromSoft, but when Demon's Souls was first unleashed on the world, many players had a hard time wrapping their heads around the notion of using triggers and bumpers for normal attacks. The Souls that follow have certainly proved that there's something to that control scheme, and it feels natural to most games nowadays. So, they're working. They're putting out updates. I saw already put out an update that added fast travel to like the main town that wasn't available at first, which is a little surprising that it wasn't, but it is there now. But one of the things that a lot of people really don't like is generative AI art in video games, and heading over to IGN and Rebecca Valentine. What's really her name? That's crazy. Rebecca and Valentine, just like Resident Evil. I'm playing a lot of Resident Evil lately, so I got that on my mind. All right. Crimson Desert players think they've found AI-generated art in-game. Crimson Desert just launched yesterday to a bit of a chaotic and mixed reception from critics that hasn't hampered its sales, but those 2 million players are starting to stumble into some concerning issues in their first day in Pywell, including the presence of what some are saying may be AI-generated art assets. A number of threads have popped up around social media of players questioning the human authenticity of certain art assets, specifically signs and paintings around the game. There's this painting of 2 swordsmen with a lot of odd angles. Yes, very strange there. There are these odd-looking gentlemen with funky fingers. There's him again. And all the above, I could see there being an argument for just some funky proportions. The piece that really seems like solid evidence of generative AI is this painting of various men and horses. Just start looking at those horse legs and keep going, what is going on here? Our own writer, Brendan Graber, stepped in and found us some more examples that are just off in ways that don't really make sense for a human to have done them. What is happening here? Yeah, the caption. What is happening in this picture? No idea. No faces here. Lots of legs. Very strange. Use of generative AI art to create assets, particularly final published ones, has been a hot button issue in games over the last year. Multiple companies have been under the magnifying glass, both for confirming what they did, use it, or even seeming to use it. Nintendo had to deny accusations of generative AI used in Mario Kart World for various billboards. Activision has experienced an ongoing outcry for generative AI assets found in Call of Duty, as EA for Battlefield. Larian Studios went through a whole round of public backlash late last year when it was revealed in an interview that its upcoming game, Divinity, was using generative AI behind the scenes for things like concept art and placeholder text. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 was stripped of an Indie Game of the Year award last year when it was revealed that a generative AI asset inadvertently made it into the final release build of the game. None of those controversies appear to have impacted the sales of these games, but they've certainly turned segments of the public perception against them. So I guess we'll have to wait and see if Crimson Desert's publisher comes out and says whether or not this was AI. It really looks like AI to me, and I'm sure if you are watching the video, it looks like it is to you. But, you know, despite the strong sales, 2 million in the first 24 hours is good. We'll head over to IGN again and Wesley Eden-Poole, who says, apparently not good enough for investors. Crimson Desert publisher stock price plunges nearly 30% amid 78 Metacritic score. Pearl Abyss, publisher and developer of Crimson Desert, has seen its stock price plunge nearly 30% in what is seen as a reaction to review scores. Reviews for the hotly anticipated open-world game went live yesterday, March 18th, on review aggregator Metacritic. Crimson Desert currently has a meta score of 78 based on 85 critic reviews, but the number is expected to fluctuate as more reviews come online in the days and weeks following today's launch. Based on playing the PC version, IGN rated it 6 out of 10, but that score is not final. At the time of this article's publication, the stock price for Korean company Pearl Abyss was down 29.88%, wiping approximately $13 off the value of a share. The stock is currently valued at approximately $30 per share. Apparently not good enough for investors, said Dr. Shirkin Tato, CEO of Japan games industry consultancy firm Gatan Games, in a post on social media referencing the Crimson Desert review scores. According to Seoul Economics Daily, the market had expected a meta score in the mid to high 80s, and the lower anticipated result appears to have weighed on the stock. The same report said Pearl Abyss spent 7 years developing Crimson Desert, with the development costs coming in at 200 billion won, approximately $130 million. However, there are strong signals that Crimson Desert will be a significant hit for Pearl Abyss. Rise Elliott, head of marketing analysis at Alia Analytics, said that Crimson Desert is on track for a killer launch on Steam. According to Alia Analytics estimates, Crimson Desert was approaching 400,000 pre-launch copies sold on Steam as of early this week, representing gross revenue of over $20 million. This game could really blow up if it sticks the landing, Elliott added. At the 3-day pre-launch mark, Crimson Desert's 20.3 million on Steam means it's outperforming Kingdom Deliverance 2 by nearly 4 times, 5.2 million, and Expedition 33 by nearly 10 times, 2.4 million, at the same point in their respective life cycles, Elliott continues. And as Toto pointed out, Crimson Desert is currently number 4 in the US PlayStation sales charts, behind only MLB The Show, NBA 2K26, and Fortnite. Very solid, I would say, for an IP not well known at all in the region of the world. Crimson Desert is now just a few hours from release, to find out when it launched in the time zone. So obviously it was released and it sold 2 million units. So I think the stock price will recover. I think the biggest thing facing this game is the AI art accusations. I would love to see a statement on it, see if it was AI art or just really funky. I mean, I'm giving them a lot of grace. It looks like AI art, very much. I'm pretty sure it is. So we'll see what happens there. But have you played Crimson Desert yourself? If so, what do you think about it? I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Should I check it out? Should I wait if I have problems with AI art until that situation is cleared up? Let me know your thoughts, and make sure you check out all of our channels, including Wicked Everything, where we cover video games in the form of video essays and video game reviews, and Those Fake Nerds, where we cover nerd and pop culture news, our sports channel, Wicked Sports, where we cover sports news, our podcasting channel, Better Radio, which shows all of our long-form podcasts, and our newest channel, History is Wicked, where we cover cryptids, urban legends, and weird history stories. Again, thank you so much for your time, and I will see you in the next one.